Welcome to Popcorn Planet. We are live, and it's time for a chill stream. There it is. So happy. We're going to talk about Snyderverse tonight, and I'm going to do it chill. Because sometimes I get hot and bothered in this. And I got another guest here who gets hot and bothered with this. I got two guests, one special guest who's gotten super hot and bothered with it this week. And we're going to talk all about it, as well as my man Lewis. We got Uche and Lewis on the stream. What's up, guys?
Woo. What up? What up?
Happy
just
to
be clear,
here.
the special guest is Uche.
Lewis is always here. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say. No. Love Lewis. But I'm happy to have. Is the music too loud, or is it good?
No, keep it going.
Oh, yeah, the movie is on. Well, so guys, we're hanging here. Thank you for everybody tuned live. There wasn't much of a topic tonight. I was just going to chill with you, answer some questions, had some chill beats on, and then I threw out an invite to Uche, who was like, yeah, come on in. Uche's had a pretty crazy week this week with his Snyder stream and some other stuff, but I thought he was the perfect guest to talk about, can the Snyderverse happen? Because I know he really wants it to happen, and I like Uche, I respect Uche, and I thought if this conversation can happen, let's have it with him. And Lewis, always happy to have you, my man, here as well, but everybody in the chat, I see you guys, James, Matt, Bill, Marcus, all you guys, thank you for tuning in tonight as we get people in the building. Appreciate you guys always being here Thursday night for Popcorn Planet Live. But let's chill, let's hang out. You guys can pivot this conversation, we got lots more to talk about, but I thought, let's try to be positive for once about the Snyderverse here in my audience, because a lot of my audience doesn't like it, Uche. But let's try and have some fun. Let's try and talk. So I want to start here, and Lewis, you're there too. You can feel free to add some comments. But I want to clear the air because with that Zach stream, I got to say, I thought you were in a tough spot. And for those that don't know what happened, Uche put together an amazing charity stream. Bravo to you. How much did you raise? What was the end total?
103,000.
Woo! I mean, that's no joke. That is amazing what you did for him and what you did for the charity. And so Uche,
big shout out to the Geeks and Gamers community, because
yep,
they were a big part of making that happen. Much love, much respect. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's when all that shit went down, where basically was happening, and the Geeks and Gamers community. Let's be honest, the Geeks and Gamers community raised that money through you and through your channel. Zach had to come in and had to sort of distance himself from the community. And so he made some statements that we all were commenting about. The internet went a tizzy for a while, put Geeks and Gamers slightly on blast, one could say. It upset them for a little bit, and it put you in this weird spot where you had to defend Zack Snyder and then defend Geeks and Gamers. And you've talked about this a bit. We're not going to go too crazy on it, but I just want to say I saw what was going on there. I was even messaged like, dude, you're doing great. I know you were in a tough spot. Is that fair to say?
Look, the event was to raise money for AFSP, American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and that's where I wanted to keep the focus. And if you really if you want to get a little bit more info on the situation itself, Jeremy put a video out on Geeks and Gamers where he accurately goes through a lot of what happened. So I would really just say go check that out. He explains it better than I would right now. So the way I saw it at the time was keep the charity going, keep raising money. But it is what it is. It happened, and now we move forward.
Well said. I mean, there was a lot of hot takes the day of, and even I think that night of, as people were just sort of reacting quickly. And as I'll say it, I did think there were mistakes made across the board from Zach, from everybody, sort of the stream, and everyone's got a little heated. But it was nice to see by the next day or so, it seemed like everybody was united and realized, yeah, no, we gotta bring things back together. Remember what this was for, which was the charity. And so good on you for doing that. Good on you for bringing that money raised. I know there's been a lot of talk about it. I think you guys have now made it clear, and I came forward and had to back. I think Zach just said it wrong. I think is really what happened. If Zach's credited for anything, and I wish he had just said it a little bit better. But at the end of the day, a lot of money was raised. It seems like the community. Do you think the community? There's still people in that
saved lives.
Yeah,
literally saved lives.
Facts.
Some people you may never meet. So big. That's huge for the community because they showed a hell of a lot of support. And we said that we were going to do this thing on a level that has never been done in our community, and that's what the Geeks and Gamers community brought to the table. So, along with the Snyder Cut community, because they were there as well. They had almost 10,000 people in that stream. So it's not even a matter of the drama. The drama is besides the point. It's a matter of we raised a ton of money, we've saved people's lives, and the community should be very proud of that fact and proud of coming together as one fandom and making an actual difference. Making an actual difference in the lives of people you may never meet who are teetering on the edge right now. So that's something to be proud of. Something to absolutely be proud of.
Right, and I think that's why a lot of people just were frustrated.
Let's not let that be overshadowed.
I think the comment is what made the drama happen, and I just wish the comment had been made, because that's the reality of it all. But you know, and the comment being made clearly came from higher up. It seems
Jeremy made a video on that.
Yeah, higher people made that comment, and the Warner Brothers things as were revealed and all that. And it is what it is, and I think that's another conversation, another time. But I think. I'm glad people have finally sort of are moving on, and I'm most glad that you Uche, because that was on you, man. You organized all that you raised so much money for a good cause. Because you are not, for folks, Uche is a Snyder fan. He is part of the Snyder army, but he is not in the Snyder cult. He is not out there hating on people and being an asshole to people and wishing death on people. That's who when I say that, which I know is a lot of people hate me for it. It's a very small group that I'm really frustrated with because they're out there causing harm and hate to people because of the movie, because they don't like it. And Uche is not one of that. Is not in that. So I want to make sure people know.
You find fandoms that have like overly passionate at times members and pieces of it. In every fandom, whether it be sports, whether it be, Hollywood and entertainment. Hell, you can find overly passionate fans on table tennis. I mean, everywhere. So, they're passionate. Maybe they express it in a way that's not productive or is a little counterproductive, but that goes with part of when your emotions are mixed in there with things that you really care about. You can get rowdy, but people who are going out there and spreading any kind of purely negative energy, no, of course nobody wants to deal with that. So I can understand why you would say that there's a little small portion.
Yeah, I mean, they come at me the most. They come at a lot of people don't like Jody. I understand that too, but they come at us the most just because we.
Where's Jody? Where's Jody Joe at?
We're vocal, so they come at us, and so I think just people don't understand that we see it more than the most people. And look, you know how it is. While we ignore the hate when you're pounded with it day to day, it's like
himself.
It's like craziness.
He brings it on himself. I think he actually enjoys it. He enjoys it.
He's not fazed by it. That's right. Lewis, what is your take on all this? I want to get you involved in the conversation, not to just focus. But what did you think of? I mean, it was a good thing they raised that money. No, you agree on that? We on agreement on that?
Oh, excellent. And I think if there was anybody, criticizing you, Uche, because there was people trying to say, I would have done this, I would have done that. Nah, it's easy to say that after you watch the video, but nothing you did was wrong there. You handled it perfectly. And stuff, even by not acknowledging what could have been a negative thing. And the entire idea, the goal was to raise that money. We thought it was 60,000. It's 100. It's almost double. So that's the entire point. So you handled it well. You're a hero there, and stuff like that. And I'm glad it doesn't seem like it, but I'm glad no one got to you, criticizing you, because there were a few people trying to get to you, but that's just a YouTube game.
Let's be fair, right? Uche. Someone did get to you, and I want to just nip that in the bud too. Yeah. You and Mr. H reviews. We saw that, and I watched it, and good on Uche, because Uche put it out there online. Uche wasn't hiding it, but Mr. H.
I'm not gonna hide nothing.
Yeah, no,
you don't know anything about me,
dude. I love that about you. Yeah. But I was going to say, Mr. H reviews, who I like as well. I like them both, like Uche and Mr. H. Mr. H sort of put something out there, and Uche came hard. Because you were telling me earlier, because there was a lot of compounding stuff, and he was sort of the guy who said it at the point that there. But it was a fascinating conversation, because you two really did come down to a middle where you realized, it was just an experience on a stream. We all had stuff to learn. I think we all still have stuff to learn always. But in that instance, a lot of stuff was happening behind the scenes for Uche. Joe Mantinelli was coming in. Ray Porter was coming in. You were organizing a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and we had heavy hitters in there, man. I had Ray Porter. I had Darkseid in there. I had Deathstroke in there. That's what we do. We make big things happen. This is me, Ryan, Lethal. We planned this. it's not, it's just because we all share that kind of that true like that you talk about fanboys, like we're not like, it's not like we like geek out, but this is a guy that we like, we love his work, so we want to support it. We wanted to organize an event to do something with him. We wanted to make it as big as we possibly could. So, it's crazy because there are so many people who reached out to me and who were retweeting that, these people are legends. Diamond Dallas Page, Jake the Snake Lawler, fucking David Ayers, I would have to go on my
There was
Twitter
a lot
and
of
look at
people,
it,
yeah.
There was a lot of people retweeting. Kate Quigley, she, the comedian, all these people were retweeting this out. You know what I mean? They were like showing support. Like,
well, it was a good cause. Regardless of what you think of the movie, it was a good cause.
Yeah, this is for AFSP, but we're gonna do it and do it in as big a manner as we possibly could for the community. And the community came out and showed their support and they showed their love. And I appreciate that all day. Like, let's not let the drama play into none of this. Like, I appreciate all of y'all, and Zach appreciates it too. He said it multiple times. He appreciates it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what we can do together. So let's just stay together.
So let's talk about moving forward together, because I really want to get to that talk. I just wanted to make sure we answered all that sort of lingering drama stuff so people didn't bother us later. Snyderverse, man, it's happening. Lewis, we'll get your thoughts too. It's happening. It's not happening, rather, according to Warner Brothers, is what I was going to say. Warner Media, when I'm curious, because I tried to be as objective as I could. But take your fandom out of it. Take your love of Zach. Take your friendship with Zach out of it. Can we agree that the move Ann Sarnoff played that following Monday when she said it was done was not a good move for the Snyderverse continuing? I mean, that is a uphill battle now. That's not saying it's possible, but can we at least acknowledge Ann Sarnoff has made it clear Warner Media is over with Snyderverse? Do you get that vibe, at least from what they're saying in that interview she put out there?
Okay, so first I want to know something. Ann Sarnoff, she's the CEO of Warner Media Studios,
correct?
Which is the former Warner Brothers Studios,
right? But it's all been restructured. HBO Max is under her. Jason
Kilar is the CEO of Warner Media,
right?
Period.
The business.
So he has fine.
Business.
Yeah. So does that mean
he does not do
does that
content?
Mean he can override? Does that mean he can override?
I mean,
as far as his authority
so could
goes?
AT&T, but you don't put people like.
So then there's a chance.
You don't
That's
put people.
How I look at it.
You don't put people like Ann Sarnoff, especially a strong female CEO like she is, who came from BBC, a lot of legit places, dude. Jason Kilar doesn't make content. Jason Kilar makes apps. He made Hulu, worked on Amazon. Jason Kilar is not a studio guy. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I know him.
Yeah, but he made CEO.
It doesn't matter. I've worked for a million CEOs. The CEOs never gave me notes, Uche. CEO never gave me notes when I make content.
I understand that. I understand that. What I'm saying is, if he has the authority, then there is a possibility he can use that authority. The same way that AT&T, against all the harpings and yellings of WB, said Snyder Cut and walked out of the room, and that's the end of it. Didn't matter that WB didn't want anything to do with it at all. AT&T peeked through the door and said, "Hey, did y'all see that they got 800,000 tweets today on release of Snyder Cut? Call Zach. We're releasing it."
No, see, no, Lewis, let's get you, because I don't want to keep you out of the chime in. But
as a business decision, it doesn't make any business sense whatsoever that they would ignore what's happening right now with the Snyder Cut.
Well, I mean, but it does. So here's where we disagree, I guess, to an extent, because this isn't hate. I'm talking strictly business and dollars.
Yeah.
Strictly business and dollars. They know what the actual downloads of the apps and the view streams of are the movie, and I'm not even saying they were bad, but do they warrant the investment that would be required to do more? That's the dilemma, right? And I don't believe for a second if they saw potential in those numbers, they would have allowed that piece to drop in Variety or whatever it was. Because that piece, whatever you think, and I want to make it clear, anything is possible. Zach has proved that more than any other filmmaker in the world. But the reality is he's got to get AT&T, Warner Media, to greenlight it, right? And sure, could the CEO, Jason Kilar, overstep and do something? Potentially, anything's possible. It's just not the way businesses run. Jason Kilar is running a business. He's running all of Warner Media and trying to figure out, all right, are we putting the theaters? Are we putting that? He's doing big
let me ask you a
moves.
question.
He's not greenlighting series for HBO Max. That falls under Ann, and you don't hire someone to put them as a CEO. It's not like she's a manager or a director or the president. She's a fucking CEO of programming is really what she is. Sure, could the board go to Kevin Feige or even Bob Iger and say, hey, we want to make this because my son's in it? Yes, anything is possible if you're in charge, but it's going to cause some division to your CEO if you see like, dude, I just made a press release saying I'm not doing that, and you're coming out and undermining me now. Like, it just creates such a dissent from a business standpoint. I'm talking strictly a business thing. I don't believe Ann Sarnoff puts that article out unless she's spoken to Jason Kilar. Like, that's my point. Like, that you don't put an article, like, I've worked with CEOs and businesses like this, and it's not to knock Zach or the movie. Warner Media, not Warner Brothers, made a business decision, I think, to reclaim the studio from the fans. Right or wrong, I think Ann Sarnoff is doing a power move to say, thanks, fans, you got your movie. Now it's time to move on. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Bravo, Zach. I'm glad you got your trilogy made. Now we got to focus on James Gunn and Matt Reeves and all the other things we have on deck. I think that's a fair thing for Warner Media to want to do. I think they did a big thing for Zach.
Nobody's saying that they can't do that. What we're saying is, why not do both?
Well, money is the question. Lewis, I want to get your thoughts because I don't want to.
Yeah, well, I think the DNA of the Snyderverse is always going to be in the DCU moving forward. Suicide Squad, they just released a poster, and Harley Quinn. I guess that would be considered part of the Snyderverse. So it's going to be a long time before that. I think with the fans, yeah, there was good faith bringing the Snyderverse or the Snyder Cut, because the fans of comic book conventions where I work at, everyone's talking about it, and it's kind of like a lot of people who don't like DC are actually saying, hey, I like this movie and stuff like that. What's weird to me, though, is all the conversation I hear, and I'm not saying it's wrong or right, but it's hard to believe that AT&T, Warner Media, Warner Brothers, all of them are fighting to like sabotage each other because they're all part of the same company. So it's like me wanting my left foot to rot. It's going to affect my arm eventually, right? They're all branched together. So as far as Ann Sarnoff, I think she spoke to the other guy, the one you guys mentioned earlier,
Jason Kilar.
I think they all got it. They all must have. They knew it was happening. That interview reads like it was already pre-made. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, that could be true.
Ask these questions, I'll answer these questions. That was not a spontaneous interview. Now, could the Snyder?
It was totally scripted.
Yeah, it was scripted. But there were good questions though. Like, wow. But another thing is, I do think it can come back. I don't think it's set in stone. It can't. But the big issue is getting the actors. The actors is a big issue because what's up with Cavill? What's up with Ben Affleck, who doesn't seem to be wanting to be in it? Gal is pregnant, so like that puts her out of commission, right? We have the guy that's playing Flash, Ezra Miller. He's going to do his own movie, and he's part of Zach's casting. So that's DNA of the Snyderverse right there. But getting the gang back together, and then the thing with Ray Fisher, Momoa will probably do it like easily, but getting the gang back together, it just doesn't seem like it's possible to me.
Not
But
now.
Not
when
now.
You get
the
I agree.
gang back together, it's twice as sweet.
Yeah,
I was just saying,
when though?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's just I think it's just a realism.
This doesn't need to be anything that needs to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. It don't need to. You can
Right,
push this off. You can push this back 5 years, and you're good.
That's why it's so weird to me. And I'll be honest, and Zach.
Fill in the blanks by world building with spin-off series in the meantime.
I don't know why.
That's really what I would like to see happen first. Is you got Justice League, now you go into Deathstroke, now you go into maybe a miniseries, a Killing Joke miniseries for Ben Affleck if he's willing to do something like that. Or you go.
But do you think Zach? I mean, because now that intrigues me more. If we were to do like a darker R-rated standalones that sort of Zach oversees or produces or whatever, give him the Snyder label, whatever, and just every couple years he gets to produce like a DC film from afar for HBO Max that's like R rated.
Give them one miniseries a year.
But you see, you just made it more complicated. If you're talking, hey Snyder, come do a cool movie with Deathstroke, make it R rated, put it in your world, whatever. But like go dark and have fun with it. That's a easier commitment for a studio than, hey, let's do a bunch of more miniseries with the whole cast. I think the ask is too much, especially given that the fan base, how do I say this nicely, is a little aggressive. They want the world, and I think that's the reality. I think you got to. Ann Sarnoff is like, dude, fans, we just gave you this movie. It cost us a fortune. Like,
I think
you're not even grateful.
Though, and I want to ask Uche's and Andy's opinion on this. The biggest mistake they could do is go out of their way to let the audience know that the Snyderverse that didn't exist. If they stop the movie and go, well, this isn't, Ben Affleck's Batman doesn't exist. Shazam, for example, it seems like Batman versus Superman happened in that world, right? So it doesn't they don't go out of their way to disprove those events. That's cool, right? Because if you do like Snyder's verse, and I like a lot of its aspects, you don't have to be like, oh, now the Snyderverse is over. I hate when they do that. Like, to me, they could have easily said this Batman is Nolan's Batman, but I feel like they went out of their way to let the audience know it's not. Remember, Ben Affleck's Batman was kind of retired, just like Nolan left off.
He was 20 years deep.
He
was 20 years deep.
Yeah.
He'd been doing it for 20 years.
What I hate is when the next movie, if it goes out of its way to say, hey, Snyder's verse doesn't exist. That would be a big mistake. I think you keep the Snyder fans, keep Snyder's DNA, and I think one day, maybe he'll have a movie, a Deathstroke film, or who knows, right? But I don't think saying anything's never gonna happen. I don't think that's a right way to go either.
Yeah, no, I'm never doing that again. I'm never saying something's never gonna happen. I don't care what the source tells me, because Zach has proven anything is possible. But yeah, I think that's what my issue is. Just more like the fans expect too much right now. And I think it's to their detriment, because I'll give the fans credit and Zach credit. Like, the movie's doing pretty well. Like, the fan base, the people in the world, they're liking it.
People are talking about it.
Yeah, they liked it. I think more than people thought they would.
Added new audience. That's what you want more than anything, is to add more people. There are a lot more people watching the Snyder Cut now than there were who even gave a damn about Justice League in 2017.
Well, but see, that is where I don't know the answer if that's true, because the reality is, like,
we don't have theaters.
We don't have the numbers. We don't know.
Really put those numbers
exactly.
Together.
So it's like, who does know those numbers? Ann Sarnoff. Like, Ann Sarnoff knows those numbers as soon as it went live.
But
and so for her to
look, I've inquired about this. They literally, I don't know if hate is the right word for how they feel about their relationship with Zack Snyder. From Warner Brothers Studios, Warner Media Studios. They literally hate Zack Snyder.
I believe it. That's what you're confirming my story from last year before it got greenlit. Warner Brothers wanted nothing to do with Zack and wasn't going to release the movie. That was a fact. And it was AT&T who came forward and did it. That's always been the case.
AT&T and HBO Max. HBO Max. Jason Killar was the one who was.
He saw he's an internet guy. He did a company called Vessel, which failed.
He's a Snyder fan
but
too.
he saw, I think, the hashtags, and he realized the potential. I believe that. That's why Ray's retweeting him, even though it's kind of going against the whole accountability is greater entertainment. Because let's be honest, Jason Killar is in charge of all of it. The investigation, the Snyder, all of it. The not having the Snyderverse, it all is Jason Killar. He's playing both sides. Jason Killar's like not doing it and not having the investigation, but then he'll be like, we love you guys. It's smart, but it's really frustrating because he's sitting on the fence on both sides. And I got a problem with that, because show us your cards. Are you investing this and saying this is happening and you're making and other people do it, or not? You know what I mean? Like, it's a much frustration, because that's creating more division out there and people saying, well, no, Ann doesn't have any say. If I was Ann Sarnoff, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed at him, because I'm like, dude, and especially if he tries to undo it and say, no, we're going to make it happen. So all I'm just getting at is, I think
my question is, where would they can get the money to make it happen. They can't.
I mean,
owned by
they are
AT&T.
not in a place right now where they want to spend a lot of extra money.
Yeah, they don't want to do. They don't want to
right now.
They can put $100 million into a.
Yeah, but does that? But that
know.
you're proving my point. If they thought they could make the money back in subscribers, they do it. But I think the reality is they realize this fan base, a lot of them, the vocal fan base that they're reacting to and thought would help, I think they hate them personally. I think Ann Sarnoff's move was a clear strike at the fans of a. Enough is enough. You're done. Stop telling us what to make. I genuinely believe it.
At the end of the day, when nobody goes and watches they shit, it's the fans. So we control their destiny. They don't realize that because they're on the operational side. But from the consumer side, we control their destiny. We control it.
Well, unless Godzilla vs. Kong and Mortal Kombat do better for them.
Man,
right?
Listen.
If they do, it's a big if, but they could.
Even if they did, that just means that you have multiple properties that you should be building on to create a platform that can last and stand the test of time. Because I tell you what, Netflix went into doing that, cancel a show after like 3 seasons to save money, and now there really. I mean, when's the last time you watched Netflix? I don't watch Netflix. I
don't actually watch it as much because they don't have any IP. They're running out of content.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah, Cobra Kai. They have a lot of content, but it's not content I want to watch, is the bottom line.
They had good content and they canceled it.
Well, we can't even tell when they have good content because they put out so many things.
Yeah, they cancel them after a season.
But Lewis is right. They have so much content. It's always they're trending movies. And I'm like, what is this one? I haven't even heard of this one. They're trying to sell me on stuff that I've never even heard of that I'm not going to watch.
Gave up on that
and then
shit.
there's every week there's 3 of them, and it's like it's too much. But I do think Godzilla vs. Kong is going to be bigger than Snyder Cut. I do. I don't say that.
I mean,
it will.
Honestly,
I think it's going to be a bigger movie.
I'm not going to argue against that.
I mean, it's bigger than anything.
I just have a hard
it's
time
a fucking
seeing...
huge theatrical movie that actually I hear is good, pulls it off, and we've been waiting for this finale. It's a hard thing to compare to be also fair.
I mean, that's cool. There's no reason why there can't be multiple successful properties that can add to HBO Max's portfolio and help them create a real foundation to stand on. I mean, superheroes, as we know, are a big part of media right now.
It's true, but I do worry there's some saturation too. I'm sorry, I want to make sure we were having such a good conversation, and I chilled and forgot about the chats. Sal Casanova, thank you for sending that $5 super chat sticker. And then David March, sorry I delayed, I want to get to you. I'm always positive about the Snyderverse. Just look at my angry rant in defense of the cut on Nerd Report. Lewis, you can attest that. He also said, David said, I'm always positive. Oh, you said the same thing twice. Paid for the robot and got nothing. Why didn't the robot read it? Hold on. I should have read it. I'm refreshing it.
Didn't hear Stallone took the robot out of Rocky IV, dude.
He did. I don't know what happened there, David. You paid for the robot and it didn't work. That's not fair. Oh, wait. That one does. But this one doesn't? Anyway, I'll have to work on that. Apologies, David. I'll do it in a voice.
I am always positive about the Snyderverse. Just look at my angry rant in defense of the cut on Nerd Report.
There it is. I love that robot voice. I figured it out. There we go. So you paid. You got it. There you go. The Snyderverse. I want to talk more about the Snyderverse. But Ezekiel also quickly. There should be compromise. Continue second film. Have third film end with Darkseid winning. Flash doing Flashpoint like in Dark Apocalypse War. Yeah, there are options. They could have definitely done this without saying it's over. They could have done it like at least open. Like, well, we're so proud of what Zach did. We're still waiting to see how it does. We're so grateful. I know he's got a lot of other projects too, and we're looking at we're focused on what we got next. But Zach has proven anything is possible, and then it just at least would have been open ended, and they wouldn't have sort of definitively slammed the door on it, which is what they did. Yeah. And so, to me, the fact that she chose to slam the door on it is telling because to me it's twofold, right? I think she really is sick of the fan hashtags.
For me to be honest,
but I mean, what's the problem with that though? That's what I don't understand. Like,
what?
Because Uche,
what's the problem with having fans that are your fans?
Because it's like, dude, have you seen the hashtag Fire Ann Sarnoff hashtag? That's not helpful.
I mean, come on, man.
That's not helpful. You support that?
Listen,
Do you support that?
Let me provide some perspective here.
Well, wait. Do you support hashtag fire and Sarnoff?
Let me provide some
He's not
perspective
answering.
about fans. No, I am going to answer. In football, you have a fan base that follows everything that happens, that follows, the wins, the losses, everything of that nature. When the coaches, when you're losing a little bit too much, what starts happening to people, to the fan base as it pertains to the person running the team? You start seeing firethisguy.com. You start seeing signs in the stadium, fire this guy. You start seeing, people coming out with trash bags on their heads. Like, that's what fans do. This is no different. This is fans being mad because things aren't going the way that they think that it should be going. So they do what fans do. They revolt against the person who's running it. In sports, that's seen as part of the culture, and no one has a problem with that. But now, in what's become very much the sport of Hollywood and Twitter, when the same situation is happening before our very eyes, now that's bullying. I mean, that's really just fans being fans. I mean, at the end of the day, that's how I feel. Like, I don't pick one side or the other, but I do think that you're setting yourself up for failure by taking such a sharp approach with your actual consumers, with people who will buy your product. You got to be, we're talking business here. You got to be smarter than that.
But how many people are in the world, Uche?
Doesn't matter.
A lot more that are
only thing
hashtagging.
Just because happen is that one person needs to tell another, and that's one less.
Dude, a million hashtags. Let's keep it real. A million hashtags could be from 100,000 people just retweeting it over and over again. Could be from bots who made several. You can't. It's not realistic numbers. Just because a million hashtags happen doesn't mean it's worth greenlighting a $300 million miniseries for streaming. That's that. If I'm running a business, I would fire anybody who greenlights a $300 million project that can only go on streaming.
$300 million. Who's talking about
dude?
money?
To make Justice League 2,
talking about just getting the thing.
How much do you think Justice League 2 costs? A 4-5 hour miniseries with all of those cast members coming back who will want points, etc., and they'll have to be bought out. Let's be real; they're all gonna have to be paid out. Plus the cost of fees, everything else, SAC, etc. You're telling me that film's not going to cost $300 million?
Same cost that you would ensue in doing any other kind of media.
Dude, but you can't release it. You can't release it theatrically. Where are you making your money back?
Yeah, I'm not. That's not the point I was trying to make. The point I'm trying to make is, of course, you're going to scale down a little bit. You can't make a 4-hour movie and go through and have it play out as thoroughly as it did. Because that's just not, it's not practical. This was a special scenario. This was a once in a lifetime situation that was allowed to play out as organically as the creative mind wanted it to. So in moving forward, there's obviously going to be a caveat that these are going to be between 100 and 150
yeah, but you can't make what Zach just made for that cost.
Doesn't mean that you're bringing back the Justice League Part 2 immediately, like I said.
So what are we doing then?
Start off with smaller scale to build your user base. That gives you more of a justification.
That's not what they're asking for. See, that's my problem of like,
that is what the fan base is asking for. The fan base is asking for to restore the Snyderverse. We're not saying release Justice League 2 now.
There's a lot of fans saying a lot of things. Let me get one thing in there. Yeah, please, Lewis. There's a lot of fans saying a lot of things.
Where was the fan base with Man of Steel, Superman, the greatest hero of all time, and where was the fan base with Batman vs Superman when those movies were released in the theater? We wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Whoa, hold on. Superman, first off, did $635 million. That's profit. BVS underperformed at almost $900 million. Underperformed. With all things being said, Warner Brothers did not lose a dime on either one of those movies.
Yeah, but it was trending downward.
Yeah, that's because that has more to do with the environment than it does the product. Everybody knows now, because now as you look at it now, 5 years later, BVS has a much finer has a much better light shining on it now than it did when it came out during that time. Because now, as we see with
the Dark Knight trilogy, people say it wasn't a good movie because people revise history when those movies were out.
What do you mean?
Well, look, with Man of Steel, I like the movie, and I always root for Superman, and even Batman vs Superman, I always root for Batman and Superman. But when I was out, man, I felt like I was the only person saying, hey, the movie's okay. Everybody was like, it sucked. It's everywhere I'd go.
Okay, yeah. That's
and then
that's in your
now
world,
people are
right?
saying it's good. And I remember with the Dark Knight trilogy, everybody was like, they're awesome. Fast forward 5 years later, they're like, oh, they're whack. It's like people revise the history.
The true test of time for a movie is how many times you can watch it after the allure of it being a new release wears off. The Dark Knight, it stands the test of time. I don't think there's many that'll argue against that. Batman Begins, actually, in my opinion, stands the best test of time.
It's my favorite one too.
The Dark Knight Rises does not, because it wasn't really part of the plan to go that route.
Right, they had to rechange it with Heath and everything. Yeah.
Man of Steel, the most successful Superman movie to drop ever, at 667 million, basically 668 million worldwide. And
that's not the highest by any stretch of the imagination.
Well, it is.
That was not that for a Superman movie. That was not. It did enough to keep going. To be fair, I think failure is a bad word. It's not a failure, but it didn't do expectations. I think the studio had. Man of Steel.
Look, Superman's a very hard character to get right. Regardless of what people, he is a hard character to get right if you're trying to do something.
So did they do it right or not? I'm confused. You're playing both sides.
No, I'm allowing
they do it right or not?
I'm allowing there to be two truths at one time, which is totally possible.
I guess there is no spoon.
The Christopher Reeve Superman was a Superman for a different time and a different age, and people who want that Superman, hey,
what about Smallville?
Christopher Reeves. Smallville stayed within that aesthetic, but that aesthetic,
which was Christopher Reeves.
That was still heavily played into in the comic book side as well during that time when that show came out. As we go further and you get into the New 52 and you get into Rebirth, Superman is a much more matured, much more solemn, somewhat solemn character.
Someone just put it in a good nerd upstairs and said Doctor Strange made the same amount of money as Man of Steel. That's embarrassing. I would agree. I mean, I know it's Marvel.
Look, Superman
but come on.
is a hard movie
You're
to make
telling me
work.
Doctor Strange
Superman
isn't a hard
Returns,
movie to make work?
Hey, look,
come
Superman
on.
Returns.
Come on.
Hold on.
No one even knows who Doctor Strange is.
That's a false equivalency. Why?
But it is. How is it
what
not?
What number in the movie line, in the movie series of the MCU, what number was Doctor Strange?
I don't think it matters. It was its own origin movie.
It does matter because
it's its own origin movie that didn't connect to the other ones.
Hold on. It doesn't matter. It's in the MCU. The MCU look, this is
how
the
much
whole
did
problem.
the Dark Knight make? This was following the Dark Knight series, dude.
The Dark Knight.
But whoa! You can't.
Continuity with
it was produced by Christopher Nolan. The ads made it very clear.
Hold on. What are we talking about?
Man of Steel. I know it's not continued directly, but before we knew anything, everyone knew it was produced by Christopher Nolan. Come on. This was the new Batman.
What does that mean?
This was
what do you make that point?
Because you're making a point that Doctor Strange had the Marvel beginning. But I'm arguing to you that's unfair because Man of Steel had a Dark Knight Christopher Nolan beginning.
Accurate.
Christopher Nolan films did really well. And this was a Christopher Nolan produced Superman movie. Connected or not, that is enough throughway to me to say it's not a false equivalency.
Okay, it is a false equivalency. Let me explain to you why. Because look it up, pull it up if you can here. What number in the Marvel MCU saga was Doctor Strange?
I mean, I don't know. Who would have 10?
How many billion-dollar movies had they already had before Doctor Strange? The MCU is a brand. The MCU is a brand that is connected quite literally just from being the movies. So any movie that comes out under that brand is going to receive the fanfare
that's
that
not true.
A blockbuster.
I think that's an unfair comparison.
It's
I hear
not.
What you're saying.
Look at the money. Look at the money that their movies raised. Look at their money,
dude. No one's disputing. And
domestic,
it's
right?
nowhere. This is not. This doesn't do as well. This is all domestic, so it's unfair. Go away, you stupid commercial.
Look at all the movies that they had, dude. Look, when BVS came out,
Doctor Strange was 18th out of all the ones, so it was low. No. 18th from a how much money it made. It did not do as well as the others.
No. That's not what I was asking. I was asking in what order did Doctor Strange come out?
Can someone in the chat tell us what order was Doctor Strange? All I'm saying is looking at all the bottom line, and again comparing to Man of Steel's domestic, which was 291.
291 is not bad.
291. It's
Is one movie in one universe versus
291.
how many of
it's
these movies?
Six. It would rank. How is Black Widow on here already? It's not even out.
Well, this is clearly not
That's
something
some
we should be
bullshit.
looking at then.
This is including the projected total for Black Widow. So ignore that. It would be Black Widow. To be fair, it would be right here.
Look,
so take
but
Black
see,
Widow
that-
out.
That's
It's
what.
projected.
And now here's where I present to you the false equivalency. You have one movie coming from one universe that's supposed to be the start of the universe in a new DC universe that is coming into a comic book movie landscape that has already had the standards set by the MCU and what you would expect from a comic book movie. Therefore, the general audience and the critics will judge that movie based on what they've already seen, based on what they expect as far as how a comic book movie should play out. And with the MCU and the formulaic style that they have for their movie universe, that is the expectation. That was the expectation that people had for a movie like Man of Steel, for a movie like BVS, for a movie like Justice League.
I'm not
so
disputing
that changes the landscape.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just
It
saying
made it harder for those movies to succeed.
Man of Steel. I lived the moment. Man of Steel was hyped as a Christopher Nolan produced film coming off of the Dark Knight Rises trilogy, which I would argue did better, especially in its time, than a lot of the Marvel movies. It did.
Well, there weren't really any.
This
Marvel
was a,
movies when
but I'm
DC
just
was
saying.
out,
But
when
that's
they
my
had
point. Of this was a highly successful franchise, the Dark Knight franchise. Now I understand it's not the Marvel, but they had 3 films that kept one-upping to build this DC world. Now, granted, not connected, but still, this tone that I think Man of Steel carried from Christopher Nolan. Just because it's not in the same universe doesn't mean they aren't tonally very similar, because I think they are. I think Zach borrowed a lot from Nolan.
Yeah, they
totally.
grounded Superman.
So they decided,
in a
coming
real
from the
modern world.
Batman films, I'm pointing out there was a set tone of budget expectation, etc., for Man of Steel to come out and hopefully do as well as it did. And the reality is, it didn't do as well. It didn't do as well.
Because why? Because the environment has now changed. When the Nolan movies were out, the Nolan tone had set the expectations for what comic book movies should be like. Remember post
but who's
Dark
fault?
Knight,
I mean,
when
so
everybody
did Marvel.
made
Doctor Strange was not as good as half the Marvel movies that came before it. That's why it didn't do as well.
Remember post The Dark Knight, when every single kind of quasi superhero movie came out and it had a dark tone and it had a gray overtone and it had like the little blue tint to give it that little look, like everybody was copycatting the tone and the style of The Dark Knight because it had set the standard for the environment of that time. The MCU did the exact same thing that started with Iron Man and then moved forward with other Marvel heroes like Thor, like the Avengers, like Captain America. They set the new standard for what a comic book movie is expected to look and feel like. So a movie now with the DCEU coming in behind that, 11 movies late, they are not they're doing something different. It's going to be judged against the standard that's been set. Therefore, it is playing at a disadvantage. If you look at it now, people are much more willing to accept a darker tone DC comic book movie because it makes more sense, and they've already seen.
So, what's your
justification?
What's your justification for Amazing Spider-Man 2 doing better, a lot better, when it only had one movie coming before it? All I'm trying to get at is you are making excuses. You are making excuses.
I'm providing you with
the reality is when you put this film
is that the environment, you are a product of your environment. If you are being judged by a certain standard, then that is the standard that you will be judged by, regardless of what you bring to the table.
Regardless of the standard.
These are
all I'm trying
Marvel,
to say is
this is all under
I don't even know what we
brand.
lost on this thing. All I'm trying to point is it didn't perform as well. But they still
the numbers
greenlit, and then BVS came forward and performed a lot better. Look at this. BVS is number 15 on the list.
Now imagine if that movie wasn't interfered with by a studio, how much more money it would have made.
Yeah, it did well. You can't knock that this movie.
It would have made more if it wasn't interfered with.
It did better than a lot. It did better than Wonder Woman.
So when they say that BVS underperformed, well, it underperformed for a reason, because it was chopped to shit and it was 30 minutes shorter. You're a product of your environment.
I hate that argument. You could, in theory, lose money if the movie's longer because you get less theaters.
Lord of the Rings, Return of the King was 3.5, was 4 hours long.
And they didn't make as much money. They didn't. That's
And
why it
but
wasn't
you know
as
what?
high.
They greenlit another trilogy right behind
But
it. did they not?
Uche, you can't tell me a movie's going to make more money if it's longer. I'm just saying, regardless
saying
of how
that a
good
movie
it
can
is,
still make plenty
you
of
play it
money.
in less theaters. A movie
Endgame.
makes money the more theaters
Endgame.
it's in.
Endgame.
Endgames is 3 hours, right?
And
no, it's two,
how much did it
two
make?
2.5 hours is what it was.
No. Endgame is 3 hours and 13 minutes or something like that. It was
Endgame,
3 hours plus.
Was it really?
Felt like 5.
3
And it
hours
felt
too.
like
3 hours and
forever.
2 minutes.
I was turning in my seat
Yeah,
like, yo,
3
when is
hours.
this shit
3
gonna be
hours has
over?
always been the cutoff ever since I've known. Godfather, a lot of
Man, come on, man. I
3
watched
hours.
Schindler's List in the movie theaters when I was 10 years old, and that was 4 hours long.
The fact that Endgame was able to make the highest grossing with, I mean, let's be honest. Avatar #2 is also 2 hours 45 minutes. So, but again, this is 4 hours. So yeah, sure. How old?
Well, of course.
BVS was how long? How long was the regular cut?
2 hours and 30 minutes.
So it was already fucking long.
It could have been 3 hours, and we would have had a much better movie that would have performed better than it did.
Anyway, that's a dumb thing to get lost.
I
in the
don't
argument.
think it was
I don't think
BVS.
that
The only thing I didn't
that
like
30 minutes
was-
would not have made a difference of more people going to
It
theaters.
did.
in
There
my
was
opinion.
2 plot lines that were completely left out of the movie that filled in plot
the
holes.
last thing I needed was more plot lines in that movie. I needed the plots that they had to be
No,
stretched
they were
out
already,
and
yes,
explained.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. To
I
say.
didn't need
That's
more
what I mean to
plot
say.
lines. That's the last. thing
They finished off
the
2
ultimate
plot lines
cut, it's
that
fine.
went nowhere in the movie.
The ultimate cut, I think, was for fans. I don't think the theater goers would have been like, "Oh my
Man,
god,
come on,
now
man.
I'm
That's
going to
like
go
saying
watch
the
it."
Snyder Cut's not. That's like saying the Snyder Cut's
Clark
not.
Kent goes and looks into more of the Batman stuff. It's so much
Yeah,
better.
that's fucking cool. That's
To
that's
you,
that's a little
Uche,
bell and whistle.
Uche, the families who go buy tickets and pay
But
the
they know who
theaters,
Clark Kent is,
they
though. They
don't
know who
want
Clark
a
Kent
3-hour
is.
movie. You just It's not I
But they
understand
went and
fans
watched
do
Endgame, so that doesn't make sense to me. They
because
went
it
and
was the
watched
cultivation of 20 movies.
But it's
Come
still
on,
3 hours.
you
None
can't
of those
use that
movies are 3
argument for me or
hours.
the other. Not say,
Oh,
of course,
I
Endgame
can't
worked.
use that argument, but you can sit there and
Endgame
tell me
is
that
the
Man of Steel
Endgame.
should have performed
Endgame
better
is a
against
sequel.
11 against an
Endgame
11
is a
movie head
sequel
start.
to the most popular comic book movies of all time. What do you mean I can't
You're
compare
telling me
it?
I can't use
Justice
that
League-
analogy
Justice
when you
League
sat
as a
there and
sequel-
Just told me that Man of Steel should have beat all these movies when the MCU had an
No,
11 movie head
you
start.
cannot compare Endgame to Doctor Strange, Uche. That's what you're trying to do.
No, I'm
right
not
now.
comparing Endgame.
Well,
I'm
yes,
talking
you are,
about
because
Man
you're
of
saying
Steel.
Doctor Strange and Man of Steel are unfair to compare. I think they're closer than Endgame, which is the end of the 20 movies that
No, I
Marvel
was
put together.
comparing BVS
Of course,
to Endgame.
Endgame is a
Not-
different
not-
movie.
not Man of
Endgame is
Steel.
its own league. Of course, it is the
I was talking
cultivation
about-
of the
I was
whole
talking about
franchise.
BVS. I was talking
Doctor
about BVS.
Strange was not an Avengers sequel. Can we agree?
Yeah, I'm talking
Of course,
about
that's why
BVS
Doctor
versus
Strange didn't do
Endgame.
well. But of course, Endgame is unprecedented because 20 films long, continuity, fans were just dying for it to go.
The
Two-part
standard had been
finale,
set,
Infinity
correct?
War, followed by Endgame,
Standards
Black
had been
Panther.
set.
I'm just saying they built that world
Literally
to succeed.
are proving my point right now.
Well, no,
They had set up
Doctor
a world
Strange.
that people had
Doctor
invested
Strange
themselves
was
in.
not in that world. I don't agree with you.
It doesn't matter. It had the MCU brand on it, so people, the average moviegoer, associates it. It doesn't matter.
To me, the fact that Doctor Strange, which has nothing to do with the Avengers, that movie had nothing to do with the Avengers. It is a total standalone movie. It's an origin of a doctor who
Yeah.
gets wizard powers. There's nothing else you needed to see before that movie. And the fact that that movie still beat Man of Steel, I think shows that he had an uphill battle.
It was
he had an
riding
uphill
the
battle.
brand. I mean, okay, let's not forget one thing. Captain Marvel made $1 billion. Okay,
Well,
let's not
that's-
forget what brand
that's-
association does.
Well, yeah, because it's
Okay.
Marvel. Marvel in the title. That movie's garbage, so I don't disagree
Brand
with you there.
association
Okay,
put
wow, it
a
beat the
movie
Dark
that is
Knight.
in no way, shape,
at
or
that.
Venom
form.
almost made $1 billion.
Look at Captain Marvel beat the Dark Knight. I guess this isn't
So-
adjusted for
so-
inflation. That's
so-
so
Yeah, but
pathetic.
Captain
That-
Marvel's in China. Dark Knight Rises, none of those were in China.
Fair.
Listen, listen.
That's true.
Looking at this list
gotta
right
factor
here
that in,
should
too.
tell you Looking at Captain Marvel should tell you everything you need to know.
Well, anyway,
These numbers
look.
don't mean shit.
Well, no, they do to the studios.
They mean stuff to the studio.
That's-
Yes,
they mean stuff to
But
studios.
when you're talking about quality of movie, these numbers don't mean nothing.
No, and I don't. I've never tried to claim that.
Yeah,
I've never tried to claim
Gotcha,
that.
gotcha.
But all it's sort of opening is he had an uphill battle. BVS, to its credit, did perform better. The reality, though, is these movies are expensive and they need to do well theatrically. It would have been fascinating to see how Justice League would have done theatrically. Sadly, we don't know now. But look, we've agreed. You've said you can't release Snyder Cut Justice League 2 the way as expensive it is on HBO Max. I'm glad we can at least agree on that because there's some people who don't understand that.
Yeah, no,
you
wouldn't start off with that. You can't
make that right out the gate. So if restore the Snyderverse, look, I said it. If there was a black label DC thing that Snyder started doing, where it's like the dark side, or what's it called, Joe Manganiello's Deathstroke. If it's like a Deathstroke movie, and then something like he does a couple of those one-offs, whether he directs or produces for HBO Max, maybe theatrically for a cheaper budget. Dude, fuck yes. But that's where I'm confused. It feels like what I've seen is the fans and Zach are pushing for the Justice League 2 and 3, and we want to have them take charge of everything. And to me, that's too big of an ask.
I'm not speaking for them, for anybody, but I feel like from the vibe I'm getting is that the Snyder, as a community, we want the Snyderverse continued. That means look to start new projects from his vision. That we don't necessarily need Justice League 2 in 2, 3, 4 years. If we get a Deathstroke, if you get if we get what's it called? Maybe like I said, a Killing Joke, maybe a Harley, another Harley, something, maybe a Joker story.
Not with that guy. Not with Leto, though, right?
Why not with Leto? I thought
he's awful.
Fine.
He's awful.
He was fine. I thought he was good. I thought he was.
Come on, man.
Okay.
I thought he was fine. Okay, I'm gonna say this. I'm not a big fan of the Snyderverse. I enjoyed the cut. It was actually way better than the theatrical. What killed it for me was that end scene with Jared Leto. That was bad, man. And I think that was the thing. People were like, "That's the cliffhanger to continue." Or was that
just something that you just weren't feeling it right away?
Well, I didn't like him, and I honestly got up and left Suicide Squad. I couldn't stand that film. And I saw most of the little parts, and then in this, I was like, "What the hell's he doubled it up, man." I thought he was gonna get his revenge. I thought people don't like my Joker.
I thought it was a very well done toning down of like the gangster side and just really being the psychopath side. Like he was in that psychopath. Like when Batman told him what Harley Quinn said, he froze. He literally.
But
Batman
that's not crazy.
Him.
That's not crazy.
Batman shook him. Like you can
but
see
that's
in his
not crazy
eyes
because
that he wanted to kill.
If someone tells you I killed your loved one, was in my arms dying, and you react to that, that's what normal people do.
But Joker wouldn't react to that like
he did though.
He didn't. He froze and he looked at him.
He froze.
And he started to get angry in his eyes. And then he caught on like, oh. It was like a joke to him at that point. You're good. You're good. Like it was like a joke. So he went into his own Joker way of handling it.
Man, I
like it cool, but
I wish I could have the same kind of positivity towards Jared Leto Joker that Uche is showing right now.
Yeah.
I was not a fan.
Yeah,
I like the movie better than I thought I would, but I did not like Jared Leto.
Listen, I appreciate the character for what the vision is, not what I think the character should be. I've watched it based on what the vision. Yeah, I thought that was creepy as hell.
Didn't you get? You didn't get the Jim Carrey vibe. You didn't get a Jim Carrey Fire Marshal Bill vibe.
No.
Let me tell you, Batman. There it is. He saw it.
That shit was kind of creepy.
I like Leto, but I just still don't like his take on the Joker. I did appreciate Snyder trolling us all with the. Wait, was it? There's this in a society.
We live in a society.
Was it in the Snyder cut?
No,
I think it's in the black and white version.
It was only in the trailer. I was like, I didn't hear it in the movie. He shot
Someone
that extra shot just for the trailer.
Version.
Bravo
I
for that troll.
I heard that the end of the black and white version is a little bit different.
Wow.
Is that out now?
So you're gonna watch the black and white version?
Yesterday. I already watched the black and white. I didn't watch all of it. I watched the half.
It's long, right? It's hard. See, honestly,
no, it's not hard.
Honestly,
I just only watched halfway through.
Honestly, come on, Uche.
I had shit to do. I had to keep
What's
moving.
better, the one HBO Max released or the black and white version so far?
I mean, dude, I don't understand how I'm supposed to differentiate what's a better movie if it's.
What do you enjoy?
Does it give it a different tone?
Yeah, what do you enjoy?
Tone?
I have trouble believing watching the movie in grayscale is going to make me appreciate it more. I just do. I think
it still has
Zach
the same
puts amazing
clarity.
color
I'll say
in
that.
it.
It still has the same clarity, the same high resolution. It doesn't lose anything from going grayscale. I mean, it's the same movie. I mean, some of the shots seem a little bit more epic because they're in black and white. Like some of the long shots that are winding out from a certain point on the screen. But I didn't really notice. I mean, I don't know. It didn't change how I viewed the movie. I just watched it as.
It just feels flat to me. Like I says love. Like Zach is really good at cool visual. I've seen that. I mean, I just watched the trailers. I've avoided it just because I'm like, I don't want to sit for 4 hours watching the 4:3 black and white version. It just feels just muted. Like
that's more of a niche thing for the hardcore.
Look, I didn't do it for Mad Max Fury Road. I didn't do it for Logan. Like it's, a lot of filmmakers have done it.
The feeling that I kind of got while watching it was Sin City. I got that kind of feeling from it.
But see, even like Mad Max, I feel like was trying to make it to me. Whatever, black and white exudes like an older film. Like it takes you back to an era and a tone of like, oh, imagine if this was from an older time. Like what's it, Mank on Netflix, right? It's like that. That to me is the trick of black and white.
I heard it worked for The Mist also.
And so like if you want to like exactly an old school horror vibe, like it evokes a feel that I don't want a big budget superhero movie to have. Personally, I don't want it for Logan either.
I mean, it's like I said, that's a niche thing that people who are.
No, but if he had his way, didn't he?
People who are
didn't it? Wasn't that how he was going to release the film if he had his way?
No, he said hell no. That's what
I
WB
saw
wanted
him
to do.
WB
wanted him to release it gray, and he was like,
what? Come on,
WB wanted him to release it as it was with no additional
that's
anything.
true. But I'm just saying, I thought there was a version where Zach like, I just want to release this black and white, but no one wants me to do it. I thought that's what he said. I saw that quote.
Nah. He, as far as I know, he only wanted to make that movie if he could do it. It's 100% his way with nobody touching it except for him.
That I believe.
And
take some producers off it. Clearly, definitely take some producers off it.
Actually, if anyone owns the 4K Batman vs Superman, it's actually a fake upconvert to 4K.
Upscale.
The one they released this week, I believe, is actually really 4K, and you could really tell the difference. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, it's sold out everywhere too.
It's sold out, but everything's been sold out for a while. I tried to get Lord of the Rings. I couldn't get it for a month.
I got to call out Mexican Iron Man in the chat, Uche, sending over a super chat. What's up, Mexican Iron Man? My brother Uche summoned me, and I'm here to impart wisdom to the great Signore that Snyder Justice League was not only a fantastic achievement. I agree with you. We agree. Totally good, fantastic achievement for Zach.
Iron Man,
but also enduring greatness like the Egyptian pyramids. Hey, good on you. Dude, I wish I liked any movie that much. So I'm impressed Zach's got this fan base that, I mean, I don't like in the Marvel movies that much either.
I'll tell you what, when I first saw, I mean, I don't even really know which one to go with first, but the way that he has portrayed the heroes in his Snyderverse, that is the way that I've always viewed, like that's kind of the way I've always wanted my favorite characters who were, in DC to be portrayed. Like I wanted them to have, like, I've read so many stories in the comic books where they have real, like, psychologically challenging, like self, defeating like arcs that they have to try and fight through to become stronger. Like they get deconstructed in the comic books all the time. How come when it happens in a movie, people want to talk bad about that?
Because in order to deconstruct, you have to have something to deconstruct. And I think the problem, if you look at it, their point of view and mine as well, is like they never really had a constructed Superman. He was always deconstructed. Unless you read the comics, he's different. Then he gets deconstructed in the movie, but the movie didn't show like, hey, everyone loves him. And then, now people are questioning if, what's up with him. They started questioning his motives and stuff like that. And they try to backtrack that a little bit, as you could see it even in Justice League, where like they had Martha Kent saying everyone's always asking about, or talking about Superman. I see people asking, and I knew Clark, but we never really saw, in my opinion, the love for Superman in the Snyder films.
Okay, so
apparently it was there, we heard him talking about it.
This is
we
Well,
didn't see
before
it
we answer
in the
that
film.
question, I got to tease everybody because at this point, I just cut it for the replay value. There's so much more we're going to talk about here on the stream, so don't go anywhere if you're watching on the replay. Those of you watching live, we're going to keep going, but I got to trim it for YouTube's sake for the replay because I want this fascinating conversation. Thank you, Uche. Make sure you go check out Uche. There I have his channel right here. There it is. Observant Lyman over here on YouTube. Go support, subscribe if you want to see his charity stream as well as all the other live streams he's done. Go support Uche over there. I appreciate you coming on. And obviously, Nerd Report. You guys know that. The link is always in my description to go support Lewis over on the channel as well. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.